10.
I always remember when I did not understand how I used to stand under all the fools' rules running these lands.
Can't hear you either.
I had my head in the sand.
Oh, I can hear you now, yeah.
And I was asleep. Now I learn a little more every day, and I'm waking
This
the
is
sheep.
horrible.
Gonna say it out loud, say it proud, get it out, 'cause I'm burning inside, cannot hide it no more. I'm a raconteur too. Yeah, I'm a raconteur too.
Hello.
Oh, I'm a raconteur too.
Hi, Baraa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fine, Baraa. Are you alright just to be silent for a minute just while I do the intro?
One more
Yeah.
time, one more time. Oh, I'm a raconteur too.
Hello and welcome to Racontuers 2. I'm your host, Aid Hardy, otherwise known as Captain Cliche, here to remind you that this world belongs to all of us, not just the chosen few. If you're listening on YouTube or a podcast, you can catch me live on Mondays, 7 till 9 p.m. UK time at raconteursnews.com, where all the previous shows are available as podcasts. If you are listening live tonight, join me in the chat room with any questions or comments for either me or my guest. My guest tonight, Baraa Ehssan Kouja, has been working with refugees for the past 5 years in Aleppo, Syria. Baraa was co-founder and chief executive officer of a charity kitchen that produced 30,000 meals a day for internally displaced people, in addition to other voluntary roles. In 2014, he travelled to the UK to do an MSc at Exeter University and then sought asylum and registered the charity called From Syria with Love, raising funds and, more importantly, awareness about the refugee crisis, particularly the Syrian plight. Touring the UK and Europe with an eye-opening exhibition of artwork by Syrian children aged 6 to 16 living in refugee camps. A presentation about the Syrian plight and a book, From Syria with Love, which provides an invaluable insight into the lives of the children affected by the Syrian conflict. Baraa has spoken at over 50 venues today. Baraa, good evening and welcome to Raconteurs 2.
Good evening, and welcome to you too.
Thank you. I just want to tell our listeners tonight, Baraa's currently in East London looking for an internet cafe that's open. Baraa, have you managed to find somewhere?
Well, yeah, the one that I went to, they said they close at 8, and I didn't want to interrupt, so I just thought I'll keep walking until I reach my friend's house, and then I'll continue for continuous 2 hours from my friend's house. But I should be all right. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Baraa, what I always like to do is, we love the personal stories, and how I like it to come over to our listeners is, just like you and I sat having a chat and other people just happen to be listening. So tell us about, well, even start with your childhood if you want. Tell us about Baraa.
Okay, so I come from Syria, Aleppo. That was where I was born and brought up all my life, lived all my life. And in 2014, I had to leave the country to do my master's. I wanted to have qualification because the University of Aleppo was out of world ranking. So if I wanted to get a job with my degree, I wouldn't be able to do that anymore. So I wanted to modify and improve my degree. So I came to Exeter University to do my master's. And then I graduated and things got worse. I couldn't go back. So I had to seek asylum. And throughout, I had a quite different lifestyle in Syria before the crisis. I was a bit naive about the global world problems and difficulties and struggles, and had quite a chilled out, relaxing lifestyle. And then things changed for me, and I started to see how much the money that I was spending irresponsibly could affect and change other people's lives. So I decided that I have a duty, because I'm privileged, I should try my best to make use of that and help other people. And I ended up setting a charity here in the UK called From Syria with Love, which raises awareness and funds about the refugee crisis.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like you've had such a journey on it. I mean, are you employed at the moment then, Baraa, or do you spend all of your time with involved with Syria with Love?
Oh no, I'm not employed. I've been doing From Syria with Love full-time voluntarily, and I decided to do it until I feel that I can't do it anymore because I need to sustain, which might happen soon actually. So I might go bankrupt soon, and that's when I will start looking for jobs or probably see other opportunities.
Right. What would be your ideal job? I mean, you came from Syria to the UK to improve your education, which you've certainly done. And what would be your ideal job?
So I studied computer engineering in Syria because it was socially better to be an engineer, and I wasn't really into engineering and tech. So I chose a master that combines between what I like and what I'm passionate about, which is management and business and administration, and my background, which was computer engineering. So ideal job for me would be project manager or business analyst, something in business terms more than in technology terms.
Right. Okay. Well, if there's anybody listening out there wants to employ Baraa on something like that, then I'm sure you can get in touch with us. That'd be good. Anyway, that's not what we're here for tonight. Baraa, I'm sure you know that in the UK we have BBC News and we have ITV News and we have Sky News. Mm-hmm. And all we know, people who haven't been to Syria, is what they tell us. Now, we do know that most of what they tell us is complete rubbish. But what I'd like you to do is tell us about the situation in Syria and how it has all happened. Because up until probably a few years ago, the word Syria just meant a country where most people in Great Britain had never been and probably would never go to.
Well, yeah, even moreover, actually, I came to the UK in 2010, 2006, and people had no idea where Syria was. So when I used to introduce myself, they'd ask me, where is Syria? And I would say it's in the Middle East. So they used to have a suspicious look on their faces. So I had to introduce myself as follow. I'm Baraa from Syria, but I don't live in a tent or in a desert, and I don't ride camels, and I don't have a gun in my pocket, to make sure that people are happy or know exactly where I'm coming from. Because all the stereotypes and myths that people have about the Middle East or countries in the Middle East are totally wrong. Syria is very, very beautiful country, very diverse, very... the infrastructure combines people of different faiths, different ethnicities, different languages. They all live in harmony, and it's very ancient. Syria has the most ancient capital in the world, which is Damascus, and Aleppo, my hometown, is 3,000 years older than Damascus. So it's full and rich of history and diversity. So what's happened in Syria, people have always been living in harmony, understanding and respect within each other, and then revolution started. Now we have different, I'm going to be a bit objective here because different people obviously have different views. We have, in general, we have the pro-West media, which has pro-right-wing, pro-left-wing, and on the other hand, we do have pro-Russia media, which is anti-West completely, and but each single one of these three try to show that the other parties are wrong and they're the only correct ones. So we've got the people who listen to pro-Russia media, think that it's all conspiracy, 100% conspiracy. The West and America want to terror people in the Middle East, which is partly true. However, they think that's the full image. They don't really see beyond that. They think Assad, the president of Syria, is an innocent, nice person, and everything has been done around him is fake and being made in Hollywood to trigger people's emotion. Now, that's one side of the people. The other side of the people, the pro-West media, the pro-right media think that bombing the Middle East is just something good that the country should be doing because it's their advantages and advantage of the people, and everyone is happy. No innocent people are being killed. It's only for the terrorists, which is also very naive and I don't know. It's just more like a imaginary situation. And the pro-left media blame it all on Russia, as if the West didn't have any advantages. All of them. I mean, whatever agenda they have, whatever media outlet people are listening to, they are being fed, as you mentioned, and they're being told what they should believe. However, quite a few people, not many, try to investigate further, which is why I like the idea of your program, because it tells people. So I think, in my opinion, the situation in Syria started as a revolution. People went to the streets and were shouting for their freedom. They wanted to be heard. They wanted freedom of expression, freedom of politics. They wanted to change and stand up against the dictator. And they were faced with bombs and barrel bombs and warplanes and airstrikes. And up to this moment, it was all internally. So it was all good because people sorting out their things between each other. There is no external invasion. And then other parties started getting involved, and that's when everything started to be messed up. We had Russia and Iran supporting Assad regime, and then America and other Western countries, including NATO, started supporting the rebels, and some of them were radicalized, and other radicals started to sneak through the border. Turkey got involved, Saudi Arabia, Qatar got involved, and Lebanese militias, Iraqi militias, and it's quite difficult. It became mega complicated that not a single reporter or journalist, or even Syrian people themselves, it became complicated to the limit that they themselves cannot say what's happening exactly and what is the best to happen, because we've got different ethnicities. We've got Druze and Kurds and Arabs, obviously Muslims and Christians and secular people and Jewish people, and they were all living in harmony together. Now the dictator, it's not due to Assad's party, but it's due to the fact that Syria has rich infrastructure of diversity and always has been. So when this crisis happened and when all these external parties started invading, that what caused things to get more complicated. And I think no one can 100% say that they know what's happening, because some people also blame it on conspiracy theory. Everything is conspiracy, and so it depends. It depends on each person's views.
Am I right in saying that the Syrian people have never ever invaded outside of their own border?
I think we did invade Lebanon. That was the case of claiming to be bringing stability to the country. That was before I was born, I think. So I'm not quite sure if it was correct or wrong, or if it was efficient or just advantages. But I would say Syria has very rich history with refugees, with hosting refugees, because we hosted refugees from Iraq, from Palestine, from Armenia, and from Lebanon as well. And I don't think we closed our borders to any refugees coming to the country.
I mean, for me, as you know, a layman who, I don't watch the news, because most of the rubbish that we get over here is just lies and propaganda, which is why it's great to have you on the show. You can give your side and your own personal experience, which is why it's so valuable. Tell me, Baraa, is it a Rothschild banking system in Syria, or is it a Syrian government bank? How does the money work in Syria?
So it used to be both, bit of both. I think it was the government that had central banks for the government, and some people were trying to also. I don't think we did have international banks as far as I remember.
Right. Okay. Because it is often things that come up, and on most of the shows that we do, it's not long before the words Rothschild and bank are mentioned. It doesn't seem to matter what subject we're covering. It always sort of ends up being in the equation somewhere. And we did have a question in the chat room regarding that. Would you describe yourself as pro or anti-Assad? Whereabouts do you sit, Baraa?
Me personally, I think I'm totally anti-Assad, because what I heard and what I saw makes me think that this person has or had no intention whatsoever to try to include the people who started the revolution, try to listen to their requests, and he thinks that oppressing people is best way to keep him in power. He doesn't really care about people being detained, killed, displaced. He's the main reason behind what's happening.
Right. Okay. No, that's interesting. Simply because you've actually been there, and I know if you were speaking to two different people in England about the political things that have been going on over the past few days, you could quite easily get, well, if you had 10 people, you could get 10 different opinions. But it is really
exactly. But I'll tell you, with some people in Syria as well, you might get people who are pro-Assad. Now, these people who are pro-Assad, in my opinion, I try to understand why people could be pro-Assad, because if you're pro-Assad, then that means basically you're a pro-dictator. What makes a person pro-dictator? So I realized I could classify them in several categories. The first one is they're either brainwashed, that they don't really know the reality because they're misinformed, and or they are minority, like Christian people in Syria. Huge amount of Christian people are afraid of radicalism and jihadists. They think that all the rebels or the revolutionists are radicals who are gonna implement strict strange radical Islam, and they are worried, and they think Assad protects them. So they are either brainwashed or either feel threatened, or they're part of the system because they are benefiting from what's happening. However, the misinformed people or the brainwashed people, or the fourth one is they might be afraid, because I remember when I was in Syria, a lot of people, whenever they wanted to talk about politics, and some elderly or old people would say, well, don't talk, the walls have ears, so you should not be speaking about anything, whatever it was, or about any. So we were not really allowed. So that's that oppression of thoughts and of ideas could produce ignorance, could produce fear, could produce brainwashed, misinformed people. So I wouldn't be surprised. That's one of the reasons I would say so.
Right. I mean, something you've just said, and it's something that I always ask myself when I look at any situation, and that is, who benefits? Who actually benefits from what's going on anywhere in the world?
Yeah, well, in this situation in Syria, I think the main beneficiaries are Assad and the Western governments, because they are claiming to be fighting ISIS, and they've been doing that for the past 6 years. And I cannot imagine or believe how come 6 years of bombing land, killing hundreds of thousands, haven't ended up with victory. I actually would like to make a call for British people to write to their MPs who voted pro-bombing Syria, to ask them what results have they made, what are the advanced they achieved from bombing Syria, where the money has been going. If it was spent on the NHS, wasn't it better than bombing innocent people, civilians, claiming to be bombing ISIS? If they were bombing ISIS, I would be the first one to vote for them to do that. But I cannot believe that it's been 6 years and there is no advanced, tangible evidence that they have actually achieved something. Yeah.
I mean, it's generally the answer to everything, isn't it? Bomb it, and then what what our government tend to do throughout history is go into another country with one public agenda that they tell everybody. They've got several other agendas hidden in the background that they're not telling you about. We go in there, cause devastation, promise to put everything right, and then leave absolute mayhem behind us.
Yeah, we can get the example of Iraq example. Now, when Britain went to Iraq, they said, well, we're coming to for destruction weapons and to release the Iraqi people from this dictator, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't really have much of insight or perspective about the Iraqi president because I was young then and I don't remember his personality. But they went there not for that reason, and they went there for their own propaganda and agenda and oil. Why don't they go to North Korea then? To release people from the dictator if they are claiming to do so, and who gave these countries the authority and the power to be able to reach out for these countries and terror and kill the innocent civilians in. Now the same is happening in Syria. If they are fighting for the Syrian people, they would have ended up the conflict ages ago. It's been 6 years now. There's 12 million people directly affected by the crisis, and there's not enough optimism in the situation. Wherever you look at it, it just sounds difficult and miserable.
Yeah, I mean, who appointed the Americans and the English as the referees of the world?
Exactly, and even that's, I think, in my opinion, that's the new way of colonialism. So instead, in their history, in the past, it was they'd go directly, openly, and they say, okay, we want your gold, we want your land, we want whatever. And now there's a more developed, advanced techniques. So they create a proxy, or they create agenda and war, and they scare people with ISIS. They scare people with Russia. Russia does the same. Russia tells the people the Westerns are not good, and the governments are making profit out of it. Both. I'm not saying that they are in agreement. They don't not necessarily are in agreement, but they are both using it smartly to benefit themselves.
Yeah, and we can see that throughout history, and it almost doesn't matter what government you talk about or what situation, but there's one thing for sure: somewhere the bloody British will be in there causing some trouble.
Oh yeah, or the Americans now recently.
Yeah, but it, and when I sort of talk like this to my friends, they say, "Oh, how can you be not patriotic about England?" Well, why? All we do is go around the world causing devastation and throwing bombs at women and children and saying it's for the good of me because I'm supposed to be scared that round the next corner there's a woman wearing a burqa or a man who lives in a tent who's going to shoot me. And that's all the propaganda seems to do.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, when you think about it, you see that the people, the real people, the population are not necessarily well represented, because when the war in Iraq happened, 1 million people protested, I think, and nobody listened to them. When the bombing on Syria, like, nobody really cares about the normal, ordinary people who might be pro peace and anti-war, and that's the case.
Yeah, and it's like the young soldiers who join the British Army. They've got much more in common with the everyday people in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran, in Afghanistan, than any of the politicians whose orders they carry out. Yeah,
and there's the soldiers that you mean that they threw their medals in front of the parliament.
Oh, sorry, Baraa, say that one again. I'm not aware of that one.
Yeah, there's soldiers. I've seen the report on Channel 4. The soldiers throwing their medals, saying, "Well, we're not going to wars anymore. It's a whole big proxy war that benefits the elite and uses the innocent people with the other innocent people money to bomb other innocent people."
Yeah, and good for them, because, I had a close family friend who was a Marine out in Afghanistan, and he came back and he got PTSD and all the rest of it. But the thing that he could never, ever, ever get over was
Yeah.
He went out there for one reason, and when he got there, he was there for a completely different reason. And that's the thing that that really disturbed him, because he was actually lied to, because he believed all the propaganda. But then when he got out into the war zone, he realised that was complete rubbish, and it wasn't for that. It was for growing poppies.
Yeah, exactly. And I just hope that one day that the percentage of people realizing that will grow and grow, and then we stop doing, because war is very, very underdeveloped thing to do now. It used to happen when people were less smart, and now with all this technology and advancement, instead of caring for the planet and trying our best to see how we can work together, how we can unite and work for the best of this world, we are still doing the stupid wars and being selfish.
I think somebody just posted in the chat room the soldiers, the veterans who were putting their medals and throwing them on the ground. We think is an organisation called Veterans for Peace.
Well, yeah. Well, hopefully they can. Yeah, I definitely think that more people, these people should be heard more, and they should be trying to spread. I'm sure they're trying to spread the word, and more people should listen to them.
And somebody else has just posted in our chat room, it's all about God. That's gold, oil, and drugs.
Yeah, and religion at the same time, because this world is representative of religion, and a lot of people create conflict after religion. Now, part of the conflict in Syria also is Sunni Shia conflict between different fractions, and obviously we cannot deny that we have Iran and Saudi Arabia. They keep supporting on the ground, and we've got also the in other countries, most of the war either because of religion, politics, money, power, drugs, whatever it is.
I think often the thing with the religion, it's used for two things. It's used to blame. It's used as a good excuse for war, but it's also used to divide and conquer people. So the easiest way to split up a group of people is convince one group that they believe one thing, convince another group that they believe another thing, and then before you know it, it's very, very easy to convince them to fight a war so that the people in power can earn lots of money.
Yeah, and moreover, you can basically control them, because once you've told people that this God asks you to do this, and then they will listen to. But it depends on the person. If the person is using the religion in a good way, then I think there is nothing wrong with that. But if they're using it to control and brainwash and make more wars and benefits, then that's one of the disgusting things a human can do.
That's right. Yeah. Baraa, can I ask how old are you?
I'm 29 now.
You're 29. For somebody of 29 years of age, you've certainly got a good overview of what's going on in the world, which tells me that you've experienced and seen some bad things, because we've had countless guests on Raconteurs News and Raconteurs 2, but one thing that's always not particularly mentioned in these exact words, but it's always very apparent, and that's that if people are in their comfort zone, they're quite happy, but you've got to kick them pretty hard off their comfort zone in order for them to learn something.
Yeah. I think life, as people say, starts out of the comfort zone, because, I mean, I never expected that one day I'll be living on a canal boat in London, for example. And my life was pretty much planned and already clear, but now I'm stuck between mysterious future and perfect past in very difficult present. But that's not the case for me. That's the case for most people.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that does seem to be coming across, a couple of things. The first thing you said that really struck me was that you were very privileged.
Mm-hmm.
So you felt you had to do something for others. So
yeah, because I used to not care much about the world's plight. I didn't really know. I mean, I thought that, I was just naive. I couldn't care less to take actions and try to help others. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I know a lot of people in the UK are living the same lifestyle that I used to live before the crisis hit my country. So I want to get them engaged. I'm trying my best to get them engaged without them having to go through what I went through. Just trying to get them engaged because they can relate to what I'm saying. That's what I do through my public speaking.
Right. I want to come to your public speaking in just a minute, but firstly, if you would, can you where are your family now? Are some of them in London with you, or are they still out in Syria?
So my family mostly are in Syria, and I have my sister has been here for the past 10 years. So she's been here even before the crisis. Her husband was doing PhD, and my other sister is in Istanbul, but the rest of my family are inside Syria.
Right. So for you, it must be quite difficult having family over there who obviously you care about and love and you worry about. Do you find that the news that you see over here in the UK, if the news reports that go out in Syria about exactly the same situation, what's the difference?
So I think, as you mentioned, the news here are always trying to tell us what they want us to hear. But in the reality, I think when I hear from people on the ground in Syria that I know and lived with all my life, and I see what's happening, it's not necessarily reported or spoken about. I know that the news would show us certain things in certain times according to certain agenda that they have in their mind. So I don't really trust the news as same like you, and try my best to get my sources from independent individuals or agencies.
People that you trust, people that you know. Yeah.
I mean, exactly.
We've all heard of news propaganda that's gone out on the BBC and on the other channels here in the UK, and they've actually shown the film and they've said it's in one country, and then we found somebody who's dug up that same piece of footage that was used 4 years earlier and was supposedly in a completely different country. And it's almost like they've got an archive of film that they dig out to show, people in whatever country wandering down the street with, a stick and a sack over their back, and that's all their worldly goods. And it could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah, sometimes you just think that these guys are trying to... so, for example, some people say that when they want people to move or take action, they use a certain footage that they have already. Yeah, I've heard about that. I'm not sure about how often they do it, but I'm sure that it definitely happens. That was also the Syrian regime used to do as well.
The Syrian regime used to do that as well?
Yeah. Because
that's really interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting.
To make people hate the revolution, they were trying to show random soldiers from another footage from Iraq saying, look, this revolution is not peaceful. These protesters have weapons, and they're using the weapons. They're killing our soldiers. They're not good, and so on.
Right, that's quite interesting to know that that goes on, and it's quite obvious to the people on the ground in Syria that actually is going on.
Yeah, well, some people.
Have we got Skype gremlins?
I still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you again, Barry. So I think Skype just lost us for a moment there. Sorry, just repeat that last little bit.
Yeah, I said some people unfortunately believe it. So sometimes you just don't know how to convince them that these are all being set up to brainwash them and to make. Yeah, I think one thing we all can agree on, that no government wants the better for humanity. I don't think any government would have an interest in trying to make the world a better place, because people who are in power, unfortunately, are not interested are interested only in their own pockets.
I tell you what, Barry, you're astounding, because um, I expected a chat about Syria tonight, and that's not what I've got. What I've got is a 29-year-old gentleman who's incredibly polite, incredibly educated, but incredibly awake as to actually what's going on and who benefits. Because that seems to be, that's the question that you always ask as well. Who's going to benefit from this?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. And then, I think the problem here is that we now are transferred into numbers. We are transferred into objects that we've been used. Look at, for example, not only me, look at most of the refugees coming from countries in Africa, coming from countries in the Middle East, and being faced with ignorance, with xenophobia, with Islamophobia. Some people hate them just because basically the way they look. Now, I'm privileged to be able to afford to live. I don't necessarily need anyone's help. Other people are not. Other people have lost literally everything, so they might need someone. They might need help. And another thing I encountered, my appearance doesn't look like a person from the Middle East to many people, because they expect to see a person with a dark, fairly darker skin and beard and stuff. And people tell me you're more likely to look European than Syrian. So I had one of the people once in the US telling me, well, you don't look like a Muslim. The other one told me you don't look like a refugee. And I just wonder, sometimes I wonder, what does a refugee look like? Like, what should a refugee look like? Because the word refugee is actually very broad. It combines people of different ethnicities, different cultures, languages. There's the good, there's the bad, and labels them all in one label, refugees. So when somebody does something good, it's not going to be generalized on the whole community. It's going to be individualized. But when somebody does something bad, it's going to be generalized, like when they say refugees are rape refugees and every one of them is bad. But how come can people be so subjective and naive to combine more than... Actually, it's the most diverse community in the world, refugees, because you've got refugees from Syria, Iraq, Eritrea, Sudan, and many other countries. Like, they're hugely diverse.
Yeah, you've got the American and English armies to thank for that, for going over to their countries and displacing them.
Yeah, and you've got also refugees from other countries. So you've got, I think, Albert Einstein was a refugee. Cheese is a refugee, and you've got different people. And just saying the word, well, you don't look like a refugee, actually made me smile. It didn't offend me. It just made me smile.
Yeah, what do they expect you to be living in a Bedouin tent in the corner of the high street? Exactly,
with their dirty clothes and not a degree, not enough money, no degree. But yeah, it's just myths and stereotypes that we always try to challenge and raise awareness about.
I think that sort of reflects on the way that the UK education system works. And the UK education system works in a way that it's not a classic education where you're given a problem and 30 people sit and debate it and work out what the answer is. You're just given a textbook, told what the answer is, told that if you don't remember it in 3 months' time when you sit an exam, then you're going to fail and you're going to be a failure and you're rubbish.
Yeah, so, there's no way of provoking your thoughts to question things.
Yeah, that's right. And so what we then end up with is people who half read a junk newspaper, who see a headline and some picture, and then they kind of half listen to the news while they're eating the tea, providing EastEnders isn't on. And then they come up with this opinion that is very subtly thrown at them in such a way that there's so much confusion. All they know is that if they're not white and if they weren't born in this country, then I hear it all the time. I work on council estates around Sheffield, and I hear quite a lot of comments which are things like, oh, they should all bugger off back to their own countries.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I had some people once. A person told me that, and then I basically told, well, if you want to put it simpler for you to understand, I want you to imagine two men have two children. Now, one of the men had stolen the other person's money and robbed him completely. Now, now the person who was robbed, son, comes to the other son, who is very rich and very lucky, tells him, "Well, I need your help," or whatever it is. And then the son would say, "Well, I don't want you. I don't accept you. My father's fault is nothing to do with me, because it's my own life, not my father's life." But he's using the same money that was stolen, actually. So I think if people are going to acknowledge, some people think that Britain is rich just because people here are smart, maybe, or just because the Industrial Revolution, and they don't know much about the history. They don't know much about the colonialism and the unfairness that happened in the world. And they think that new arrivals or newcomers should not be welcomed. That's for a start. And secondly, the people who are from different ethnicity in this country, whatever ethnicity they were, Arabs or Africans or Asians, they some of them are brought up and born and raised in this country, so they have the right equally as much as other people. How far in history do you want to go back to be able to learn?
exactly. I mean, if you look at how many different lines of, what could we call it? How many different, not just family lines, but ethnicity there are. And I mean, I'm talking about going back hundreds and thousands of years probably in this country. I mean, there's the Romans, surely there's the Scandinavians, there's anybody who arrived on a boat before Frank Whittle invented the jet engine. We're a right old mixture. Even if we go back 50 or 60 years, before there was, it was so diverse. Even before then, we had so many different bloodlines. And of course, now that's increased. And, my view is, who cares? Good people are good people, bad people
exactly.
are bad people.
For me, coming from Syria, we have, as I mentioned, the Kurds and the Druze and the people of other nationalities. So I don't think I should say, Arabs themselves, I think Arabs themselves were invaders to Syria. So I don't think anyone should come and say we're the majority, we have the power to rule the country or to have it. No, it's why don't we try to look for our similarities and focus on them rather than look to what differ with us. So people try to divide others with religion and with money, with the social level, to keep them isolated in bubbles. But that's definitely not the way forward, because that only creates divisions and ignorance and people to be more selfish and more self-focused rather than being living as a community, as a society aims towards more harmony and inclusion.
Baraa, I think that last 60 seconds is probably the most intelligent 60 seconds of speech I have ever heard.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Because a lot of, and I'm just going by my own personal experience, a lot of the people that I bump into every day, if I said, I was talking to a chap from Syria last night and he'd got a master's, they go, he'd got a what? Well, a degree, he's quite intelligent. They go, well, what do you mean? Surely he's a refugee, and he looks like he should live in a Bedouin tent, and that would be it, and that is the fault of the government, the news, because if you got a news channel that had got one particular agenda, they could at least tell the truth about the refugees, but they don't. They use everything as a way of convincing other people that their agenda is correct.
Yeah, exactly. And the people then they form their own circle where they socialize with the same people that they go along with their mindset. They're not necessarily interested in in challenging what they don't know or investigating about what they are not aware of. They show a zero interest. I had a conversation once with a guy just before the elections, and we were talking about the foreign policy and the other stuff. And what he said was basically, I'm interested in fox hunting laws more than the foreign policy of this country. Imagine. And I told him, well, how come can you say that? Because Britain is one of the major players in the world politics, and if you don't really care about people on the other side of the world just because you cannot see them, or because they don't look like you, or because they don't follow your religion or speak your language, then you're not a human. I told him, like, if you cut your hand and other person anywhere in the world cut their hand, you both will bleed red. There is no way that you can find a division. What makes you more valuable than the other person, and what makes the other person vulnerable for your criticism?
Exactly. And of course, nobody has exemption from morality. I mean, it actually astounds me that we had a guest on. I think it was Andy and Jason have had him on a Tuesday night, and I've had Rob on as well. Rob Halford, who's out in Australia, and he said that because of the internet, there's an absolute mass of information literally at your fingertips. Yet, with intelligence, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, and I think if we try to, when I try to approach people of different opinions, I try myself. I don't only talk about it. I also try. So I try my best to speak with people of different mentalities. I had a quite strange incident that happened with me. I took a part in a BBC Two documentary, which I regret because it was complete rubbish and hypocrisy and misinformation to what's happened. So there was a TV program called Muslims Like Us, where I don't know if you've heard of it.
I think I saw it advertised, but if it was on the BBC, I definitely didn't watch it.
Yeah, so they put 10 Muslims in a house. I was one of the people who were in this house, and it's like the Big Brother kind of thing to show the diversity in Islam world and how Muslims practice their religion differently. Now, the concept itself felt very strange initially when they talked about it, because I felt like I'm an experiment material as a Muslim to the non-Muslims in Britain or in the world, or what? And then I realized, well, I'm gonna take this opportunity and try to reveal my thoughts to people and try to tell them what I think. The program was 120 minutes. They showed me only for 3.50 minutes, 3 minutes and a half, because they had no way of manipulating what I'm saying. I was always making sure that I say things where it cannot be edited. However, they still edited these 4 minutes, you can imagine. Anyway, so the point from this program is, once I saw an EDL member on the streets, and I spoke with him, and I told him, look, I'm from Syria, I'm Muslim, tell me what you have misunderstandings, what you have misinformation about your opinion, and blah, blah, blah. So we were talking like for 15 minutes. And before I started this conversation with him, I told him, well, give me a hug. We should reach out, build bridges, read similarities, and blah, blah, blah. What the producers did was they basically cut off everything, and they just showed me hugging him as if I am kind of trying to, because he's asked to be my friend and to befriend me, or please. And then they didn't show anything. Like, it was really fruitful conversation, because we talked about cultures, religions, nationalities, languages, and interests, and they cut all of that, and they showed me in this image. I don't really think that was objective. What I saw on the house and what I saw on the program was completely two different things, and I could understand how people can believe what they see easily, because I was there and I was almost going to believe what I saw. So
yeah, it's just one of those, why let the truth spoil a good story?
Yeah. So it was as a whole experience wasn't really pleasant, but that's the. I thought if I didn't try to change it, yeah. I mean, if it's in that it's hypocrisy, that's also it's our fault.
Clearly, you did all that for the right reason, and I suppose naively you believed that, that they might actually put across your point of view. But that seems to not have happened.
And this EDL member, I thought, like, why is he in EDL? Well, he is in the EDL because he is misinformed, basically. That's the point. He listens to specific newspapers. He meets with several people, and he has never probably got out of his comfort zone. That one makes him close-minded and ignorant and xenophobic. So I thought, well, I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to invade his ignorance and try to have one-to-one conversation with him, try to show him how is it like to know what you never experienced, that will challenge his fears from Syrians or from Muslims. And look, if it was in a march, if we were marching and they were marching, my approach would have been different. But I was establishing a conversation, one-to-one conversation, to build bridges, to make sure that we try to reach common ground rather than being fearful and xenophobic.
Yeah, and clearly you weren't allowed to do that because it was edited. Just crazy. We've got a comment in
They showed part of that. They showed part of that. It's all right.
Yeah, so you got 3.5 minutes out of an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. And the other contributors, one of them was saying, so she was introducing herself. Her name is Marine, and she was saying, "Oh, my name is Marine, but people call me Submarine." And she was making this joke I was counting because I was annoyed about my presence. Anyway, it was 15 seconds, this joke about introducing herself. And can you believe that they showed that 3 times? They complained to me that they didn't have enough time. And I told them, well, you have time to show this joke 3 times on a TV. And you don't have time to include 30 seconds of my conversation with this EDL member. No, fair enough. That makes perfect sense.
Mm. So you've got somebody from the EDL. You're trying to build bridges. You're trying to look at somebody else's point of view, and that just all gets washed away. Great. It sounds about right.
Indeed.
Sounds about right. I just want to bring up this question that's come from the chat room. Here we go. Paul Sturm. Assad won the election by over 70% of popular vote. Has the guest an opinion?
So, to give you a short introduction about Assad. Assad came into power in 2000 when his father died. Now, the constitution of the country said the president of Syria should be 40 years old. Assad then was 35. What they've done, basically, is one party ruling the country changed the constitution in 10 minutes that make it suitable for a person to be 35 and rule the country. Now, the first election he won, 99%, not over 70. It's 99%. Can you imagine how democratic and genuine and honest these elections were? So 99% was happening. He felt, well, 99% will sound like a big lie now. So for the 83 or something, but it's not below 80. Definitely not below 80.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, 99%. I mean, I think there's only North Korea have got that kind of turnout, because if they don't turn out, they get shot, don't they, if they don't go and vote?
Exactly. And that 1% was him because he couldn't vote for himself.
Right. Okay. Baraa, we're just coming up to almost an hour. Straight after the break, I'd like to get into your book and the exhibition of the artwork that we spoke about earlier, and the work that you've been doing to provide 30,000 meals a day. Before we do that, is there anything that you want to finish off about the general situation in Syria?
Well, I would like to just say a message to the people. Whenever you want to hear about Syria, try to see below the lines that you see on the media. Try to hear from an objective person's opinion, not necessarily only me, any Syrian, but as long as they are objective. If you see any single Syrian who is pro something completely, then that also is following agenda. So when I describe the situation in Syria, I try to speak from different angles to make sure that I provide a better understanding about why and how many media are working on it and how they're representing things. So if you could just try to look further, investigate further, you'll be able to reach more reasonable understanding about what's happening.
And I think that could be said for any situation.
Exactly.
That you see on the news. And I mean, the one thing that I always think is who benefits? Who benefits? Whatever's going on in the world, who is going to benefit?
Who's going to benefit? And for me, also ask another question: why aren't we doing something about it? Why aren't we stopping it? Why most of us care, but don't care enough to take actions? Why are we so unorganized and so weak to not be able to challenge what we don't like? Why are we controlled that much? But yeah, we're not gonna go into that path because that's another topic.
Yeah, I think the truth of that is, Baraa, I mean, an example. About maybe not even 3 miles away from me, they've just been moving the trucks in ready to start the process of fracking for shale gas, just say a couple of miles down the road from me. And there are no posters up. There's a couple of groups in other little villages, but unless it is absolutely on your doorstep and you are getting kicked out of your comfort zone, people don't want to know.
Yeah, and they pretend that they didn't see it, and even if they saw it, they try to find out magical reasons to believe that it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
because people are tired. And I'll tell you, people are very tired about trying to see. They feel helpless, they feel useless, they feel controlled, and they feel anything. However, if all of us thought that, then it's definitely not going to change. But if each one of us said, I'll do my bit, and actually did their bit, that is when it's going to improve.
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, Barry, we'll take a short break. We've got a bit of a different technical setup to what we're used to. And apparently when the music's on, our mics aren't muted like they are normally. So we're going to play some music. It's about 5 minutes long, and when we come back, we'll be back here with Baraa Kouja, and we'll be talking about the artwork from the Syrian children, Baraa's tour across Europe, and in particular, we're going to talk about From Syria with Love. So we'll take a quick music break. This once again is Deke Jackson.
We stop that too. You wanna have a party, but the government, you
the governments, her majesties, the police, the courts, the navies, the armies. It's a modern world, not for kings and queens. Think it's time she retired. Know what I mean? But the masses ain't worried. Think it's cool, I'm alright, Jack. You will, I won't stop. I'm singing it for care. There ain't no God, no queen, no country. I won't stop. I'm singing it for care. There ain't no God, no queen, no country. Representative body, the House of Lords, passing laws that ought to be crimes. 1,000 years of Norman taxes, 1,000 years of Norman taxes stole the land. They robbed the fucking peasants blind. They robbed the peasants blind. A monarchy and a democracy for I don't know why. How about that unelected representative body? The House of Lords, wearing wigs and pajamas, passing laws that ought to be crimes. 1,000 years of Norman taxes stole the land. They robbed the peasants blind. They robbed the peasants blind.
And welcome back to Racontuers 2. I'm Aid Hardy, your host, and tonight my guest is a fabulous young gentleman from Syria by the name of Baraa Kouja. Baraa, you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent stuff. If you just caught the end of the first hour, Baraa is currently living on a canal boat in the East End of London, and he struggled to find somewhere tonight with a decent Wi-Fi connection. I understand you've just dropped in on a friend.
Yeah, I just came to my friends now, and have a stable connection and electricity.
Brilliant, that's great. Okay, just before the break, Baraa, we said we were going to get into the work that you've been doing. Just before we do that, we've got a comment in the chat room I just want to cover very quickly because it sort of rounds off the last hour quite nicely. Paul Sturm says, Eva Bartlett and Vanessa Beeley, are you aware of these independent journalists who have been out in Syria?
Yeah, I'm aware of one of them who said she's independent, and that one went really viral because she is independent journalist. However, her views were 100% pro-Russia. You could see it from when she was speaking because she was influencing her personal views on the stories that she is reporting about. So when a person is trying to let the people speak whatever the situation and hear the other voice, then that when they are 100% objective. But when independent journalist is trying to show you only one side, then that's, again, they're being biased. So whatever image you have, I mean, in my opinion, I would say, yes, I do agree that the Western countries are not there for good. But I would still say that Russia is not there for good. I would still say, I said, why do we always have to find one side and make it the innocent, nice, beautiful side who's only defending the people? Why cannot all of them be horrible? Because they really are horrible. I don't think any single party fighting on the ground in Syria actually cares for the people. Don't really think so. I've never seen that, never heard of them.
if there's any independent journalist who knows about the history of Syria more than I do, or lived in Syria for more than I did, I'm more than happy to listen to them and to tell them, well, yes, you're correct. These people are working for the best of the people or of Syria, not for their own pockets.
Yeah, and I think that is the key to it, which is the main reason why I was very keen to get you on Racontuers too, Baraa, because we've got a mutual friend, and she actually said to me, you won't just get what Baraa thinks, you will get Baraa to tell you what other people think too, and that's quite important.
Yeah, well, I'm trying my best, because what's happened in Syria is the biggest catastrophe since World War II. And I think me taking sides, that would be betraying for the people. I cannot say, well, I can say definitely who's the worst criminal, which is, in my opinion, and according to statistics, events, and numbers, it's Assad. Nobody, I don't know if people might believe it or not, but because they don't know me, but I was in Syria in 2013, and I saw a warplane, the Syrian regime, bombing the university campus. 100 students, 100 to 150 students were killed. Nobody heard about it. Nobody heard of this story. I'm sure that most people who are following Syria wouldn't hear about it. And this is something I saw in my own eyes. I have friends who were detained for the Assad regime prisons, and they told me stories that I could never forget, and you can never imagine what could happen, and the amount of torture it happens, the very inhumane, unethical way of treating people in general, and all of the oppression is bad. So that makes me say Assad is the worst party, worst affection to Syria, but I don't say that the Western governments are there for good too. And I wouldn't say that I'm saying my statements according to what I saw, according to events, according to what two people cannot disagree on, because it happened actually.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I totally understand that. Right, Baraa. The little biography you sent me over told me a little bit about the work that you did, but it seems that when you were in your early 20s, you're living in Syria, and you're witnessing all these people, especially children, who have, well, for one thing, nothing to eat. And you decided to do something about it. How did all that come about?
So I started, as I mentioned, I was very privileged to the point that I didn't really know what's happening or what other people are going through. And then when the crisis started, one of my friends asked me to come and volunteer, help them. So I volunteered for one day, and then I realized, well, wait a minute, this amount of help and this amount of materials are enough to sustain people for a whole month, and that could be something I spend in a week. That's totally unfair. And then I started to be more aware about the social injustice, about how inequality works in our world, and then I started to learn more and experience more, and I got more involved. And after getting involved with this charity, we used to get donations from the people, and we had to provide meals. So we used to buy with the money from the restaurants and then distribute the meals that we bought to the people in need. But then we realized that the need is getting bigger and the donations are getting less, and we had to provide job opportunities. So I was a co-founder of a charity kitchen that we started with 7,000 meals a day capacity. Then we started getting support from more people and more donors. So we grew and covered more people. The need was getting bigger, and we ended up doing 30,000 meals a day. Hello?
Hello, Baraa. Sorry, my mic was muted. I do apologise. And this was in Aleppo?
Yeah, that was in Aleppo.
Right, okay. So how many other people were involved in feeding 30,000? That's a phenomenal amount of people to feed.
So we had 15 workers, including 2 professional chefs and other workers, and way a lot of volunteers. So the way it used to work is When the crisis started, people started to being displaced from internally within the country, and we had refugees from another towns and cities. So instead of setting up a refugee camp in these areas, we basically opened the schools and emptied the classrooms, and then made it ready to receive people. So each school could host 250 people, and then each school was managed by several volunteers, where they take the information, the IDs, and try to organize and manage programs and help for the people living there. And these people would send 3 or 4 volunteers to the kitchen that I was managing to collect the food for their schools. So I used to decide and measure how many meals should I give them, and according to their need, according to the availability of the food. And one of the charities was responsible for feeding 10,000 people in a university campus. So they used to come and collect the food and then go and distribute it in the campus.
I mean, that's just you must have been putting your project management skills to use to manage 30,000 meals.
Well, that's when I realized that I'm more into being person with the management, not a person with the technology, because I realized that I am capable on taking work pressure. It was very, very stressful. We sometimes had to work 14 hours a day, and I used to feel that I'm enjoying it because of many reasons, because I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and because it's very rewarding to see how people are receiving the food, and because I could find out more about myself.
Wow. I mean, that's an awful lot. That really is. So how long were you actually involved in that for, Baraa? And are you still involved now? Obviously, you're here in the UK rather than out in Syria, but are you still involved in any way?
So the kitchen is still operating, but I'm not involved at all. I stopped my involvement. So it started around end of 2012, and I stayed there until 2014. And since I left, I haven't. I stopped my involvement because I couldn't do that remotely. But I kept working on other projects. I volunteered for a couple of months with trying to help refugees crossing boats from Turkey to Greece, and I volunteered to collect clothes in Istanbul to send it to the Turkish border. I try to keep myself always engaged and involved in one way or another.
It certainly sounds like you're one of life's helpers. Let's put it that way.
Thank you. I think it's a big responsibility for everyone, and I'm trying to do my bit until I need to find myself in a 9-to-5 job where I love the weekends and hate Mondays.
Yeah, don't wish that upon yourself too soon.
Well, hopefully not.
So you've been over in the UK since 2014. So you got your masters at Exeter?
Yeah, so I came twice before, as I mentioned, 2010, 2006, and 2014 I applied. They rejected my visa. They said, "We don't believe you're a genuine student. We think you're coming to seek asylum." But I wasn't. I told them, "Well, this is discrimination because I provided you with all the documents that you needed. I provided you that I'm capable of course. Now, if I wanted to come and seek asylum, I could have bought a fake passport in the money that I showed you my account to afford my university fees and could come and seek asylum, but I didn't do that. And then they apologized. They told me, come send us your passport and we'll give you a visa. But then after graduation, I really couldn't go back. So I sought asylum. Now they think, oh, damn it, he lied to us.
Yeah. So what is it that stopped you going back? Was it a political reason? Was it your own sense of right and wrong? What is it that stopped you going back, Baraa?
Well, different reasons. The first one is some family members started telling me, well, don't come back. You cannot come back politically, for a start. And secondly, for the way that life changed, because you are used now. I mean, I wasn't there where there was no electricity, no bread, no water. and it was quite difficult to adapt. However, I adapted, but then they told me you won't be able to adapt back because now you are used to different lifestyle, and you are trying to. So I was in a situation once where people were queuing for water. I don't think anyone can believe people queuing. No, I mean it's happening, but for me it was quite striking to see. I've never expected that one day I will manage a queue to give people water. And then a 70 or 80 years old man came to me and he was crying out for water. He passed the queue. And I couldn't give him because there are also old people in the queue standing for water. And if I give him, it's not fair for them. So we managed to give him from the back door, but it was quite difficult to see the situation, which was totally unpredictable to anyone in Syria.
Yeah, I mean, my view is that, I find that quite disturbing. Nobody on this earth should ever struggle for food or water.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody. And it is, if we believe in this system that we've got where we have politicians and leaders, if they put themselves in that position, it's their responsibility to make sure that happens, and that every soul on the earth has enough water and food. There's plenty to go around. It's just that it's not for our benefit. The world isn't run for our benefit, and it's not run for the displaced people wherever they are in the world and wherever they're from.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so you're over here. You've become what should we call it? British. You've become British. Because you're now used to living on a canal boat in East London. Oh, life of luxury, eh?
And I was featured as a British Muslim in this documentary, so they probably British.
So tell me about From Syria with Love.
Before I tell you, I think I saw a question about white helmet. Is it?
Oh yes, you're quicker than me. Yeah, we've got a question. When it says anonymous in the chat room, it's often just because somebody's not done a login or whatever. It's not that they don't want to.
That's why I don't mind.
To know who they are.
Sometimes people are braver when they are anonymous to ask what they want, which is good. I don't mind.
Yeah. So the question for everybody is, what is Baraa's opinion on the white helmets?
So I think I have met the head of white helmets at Harvard University when I went last year to do an event there, and I think the white helmets are a bit overrated in a wrong way, because the white helmets are not Oscar winner heroes. They're not media material. They are actually people who are putting their lives on the front line and risking their life to death, whether it's some of them. Now there's a couple of videos about some members of the white helmets. I think it was a picture showing one of the members holding a Jabhat al-Nusra Al-Qaeda flag. Now I think if the organization, which has more than 100 members, if one of these members or two of these members was radicalized or was radical or had extremist views, that doesn't discredit the whole organization, because these people are actually risking their lives to death. How can you be a hypocrite and how can you be fake when you are putting your life on the line? There's no way that these people are doing so. However, I do agree that there was a picture on the internet showed a person, but that I think that represents the person himself. That doesn't represent the whole organization. It's unfair to criticize and judge all of them. Now, I'll give two examples about that before I finish answering this question. The first example is this person is living in a war zone where he's being bombed by the whole world, different nations, where he's probably lost family members, lost house, lost a lot of things, and he is being fed propaganda agenda. How come we don't expect him to be radicalized? Because he's living in the circumstances with which produce radical people. How come? Why do we blame him for being radicalized? Why don't we see the reason which radicalized him? Now, this is the first thing. The second thing is,
as I said, these people should not be looked at as a media material or as a Oscar winners or whatever it is. These people, the video that was shown about Umran, do you know the kid who was on the ambulance car and was feeling blood in his head? Did you see that video at all?
I didn't know. No.
So there was a video, white helmets saving a child who's put his hand on his head and saw blood. So he was scared and started crying. The white helmets helped this guy. Now, on official interview with the President Assad, he said that the white helmets are Al Qaeda and this video is fake. It's never happened. And this child was produced. This footage was produced in Hollywood or wherever it is. Now, just 1 month later, this child turned out to be still alive, and he was in the regime-held areas when they took control of Aleppo. So that the Syrian regime TV showed this child on the TV saying that I was injured. But my injury was not from the regime, my injury was from the rebels. Now, how come the Syrian regime, how dare the Syrian regime TV say that he was not injured by his warplanes if he, in the first place, denied the whole thing? How stupid can they be? The president denied it completely. You can see both interviews on the Facebook if you look them up. So he denied it completely. He said, there's no way that this happened. It's Hollywood or produced. I don't believe it. And after 1 month, they forced the child, or the child's father actually, to say, we were attacked by the rebels and they were holding us and blah, blah, blah. So I don't think that makes sense. Now, going back to the white helmet are the people who helped this guy. That's how I see them. I see them people putting their lives on the line. And if one member of this organization was radicalized or did something wrong, that doesn't mean that the whole organization is Al-Qaeda or terrorists. These people basically are saving lives.
I think the whole story is that propaganda runs deep on both sides, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when you see the white helmets like winning Oscar movie, well, that's wrong. That's totally overrating in a very harmful way, because these people are being killed, being tortured, being betrayed by the whole world. There might be some propaganda within it. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% sure that there are not, but what I'm 100% sure is that these guys are risking their lives to death.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way you can mess about when you are going to destruction and go under the buildings, knowing that the warplane might bomb you again and attack you again. There's no way that you can mess about or mess around and try to look more powerful or hero or whatever.
Yeah, and again, you know, we've probably got a case of where a piece of film is taken by some news outlet, and whatever words they say are not necessarily what's actually going on, because they can make up whatever they want, and it doesn't matter which side it is.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and again, who benefits?
Indeed.
So yeah. So in 2014, you find yourself over here in the UK, and you're by this time you're an asylum seeker, so you can't go back.
Exactly.
But then you registered a charity called From Syria with Love.
Yeah.
Now, I know a big thing for you was it's all about raising awareness. So
yeah, more important than money.
Tell us about From Syria with Love, Baraa.
So From Syria with Love is a charity that I set up in at the end of 2015. We got our registration number in September 2016. And it started with the art exhibition. There was, because I'm always trying to get involved, there's a lady in the refugee camp in Lebanon, and she was doing an art exhibition. She's the founder of the exhibition. She was doing an art exhibition for the kids in the camp, and she was looking for sponsorship for this exhibition to rent chairs, hire chairs, and buy things for the kids.
And my friend is a journalist. He wrote about it on his personal Facebook. He said, anybody would like to sponsor us for $100. And I said, well, I will sponsor that exhibition. Sounds good. And the children should be supported because they're representing their dreams. So I sent $100, and this lady was happy, and she wanted to show me some of it. She sent me some of the pictures on WhatsApp, and I was very pleased and impressed by how beautiful and powerful these drawings are. So I told her, would you like us to bring it to the UK? And she said, oh, that would be great, definitely. So we started working on it together. I asked her to send me pictures of each child who drew these drawings, information about them, how old they are, what their dream is, and which camp they're living in, how many years have they been in this camp and stuff. And she sent me over all this information, and it was on the Halloween, I remember, when I did the first exhibition, the very first exhibition. My landlord, who is amazing, my landlords both are amazing people. They're really nice and kind. Guy, who's the landlord, helped me finding a free venue, and contacted the local newspaper, contacted the BBC radio and Devon and the TV and stuff. So we started reaching out for publicity to inform people. Unfortunately, mainstream people listen to those outlets. So anyway, so yeah, they do good sometimes. We should be fair as well. Anyway, so they came and we did a piece about the exhibition. And I started approaching other cities using the video that I had from about the first one. BBC made a video about it, so I started using that, and I started moving from city to another. Then I fundraised over than £5,000 because I was selling the drawings and send the money to the camp. And when you raise over £5,000, you have to have a registration number, charity registration number. And alongside the exhibition, I was doing public speaking to tell people about Syria. So one of the people, she's from Exeter, she's called Trish, she's an amazing person, was in one of my events. And she said, I want to help you, how can I get involved? I told her, well, if you can help us with the charity registration number, that'll be great. So she now probably has a PhD in applying for the charity commission, because that was a very long application process. And she got on board, she helped me, and she became a chair for a while because we didn't have enough board of trustees. My landlady became the secretary, and my friend became the treasurer. And we kept moving from city to another, doing art exhibitions and stuff. And we ended up raising that amount of money. We ended up doing £38,000 in 18 months.
Wow.
And we've been to a lot of places, including the Imperial War Museum, London, including Harvard University. I was invited to the Parliament in an event called Sanctuary in Parliament. And I've spoken in schools. And I've been to very, very many places, including ones that some even British people didn't go to, like Isle of Man, for example, like Isle of Bute.
So you've certainly had your travelling shoes on.
Yeah, I always travel, and I'm having 2 or 3 events from now until the end of June. 2 in London and 1 in Norwich, 1 in Bradford-on-Avon, and Bedford-on-Avon. I can't remember how to say it properly. And Berlin at the end of this month. I'm traveling to Berlin.
You're travelling to Berlin. So what have you got booked in the UK? And where could people come and see you speak, Baraa?
So on the 17th of this month, I'm speaking in London, and the event is called, it's a Syrian community iftar in the memory of Joe Cox. And there is, let me see, yeah, there is all the events. I attached them on the website. If people go to the website, it's called the event called Syrian Refugee Community Iftar. And it's
Sorry, say that again slowly, Baraa, for people to catch it. So the website where we can find all this information again?
It's called FromSyriaWithLove.org.
From SyriaWithLove.com, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the event is on Haverstock School on the 17th of June.
Okay.
That's in London.
Yeah.
And in Malvern, I'm going to do a talk in the Crescent Methodist Church.
And on the 20th, I'm doing a talk in Islington in the Refugee Week. And on the 24th, I'm going to Bradford on Avon.
Going to where? Sorry.
It's called Bradford on Avon. Bradford on.
Bradford on Avon.
Yeah, Bradford on Avon.
Bradford.
That's the best word.
There must be something else on Avon, because Bradford's nowhere near the River Avon. We'll have a look on the website anyway, Baraa.
Yeah.
we'll,
I don't know. It's Bradford on Avon. Yeah. Probably
Stratford upon Avon.
No. I'm sure. Actually, quite sure it's Bradford on Avon.
Right, we'll check out the website. I'm sure there'll be accurate details on there anyway. But people can certainly come and see you speak, and I do want to I do want to get onto some of the things that you cover in a moment. But one thing I want to cover the book. Tell us about the book.
So the book is a collective work from different volunteers, including academics and the children themselves, and professional writers and university students and Arabic speakers. So all of us work together to produce this book, which try to elaborate and illustrate the plight of the children. It shares their stories, their past, their present, their hopes, their dreams. And for example, we interviewed the children and asked them several questions. One of them was, what would you say to countries who hosted Syria, countries who haven't, and how do you feel? One striking answer actually was, I feel like I'm an old child. And when we asked the child, what does that mean? He said, I don't know. I just feel it, and I don't know how to say it. It's quite difficult. It's very illustrative book, and we have a foreword from Caroline Lucas.
Wow. So if people want to get hold of this book, or if people want to donate to From Syria with Love, how would they do that?
So we run out 1,000 copies in the first 3 months. So we're doing the second print now with Indie Books, the publishers. Hopefully we'll get it ready in 1 or 2 weeks, hopefully. So people can buy it online from our website. And one of the difficulties we are having with From Syria with Love actually is a bank account. We've been rejected by 5 banks to open a bank account. And the reasons were very, very strange and annoying. And there's nothing we could have done about it, because one of the reasons was basically because I am a Syrian refugee.
So because you're a Syrian refugee, they wouldn't allow you to open a bank account?
Yes, they said that I'm a potential risk for money laundering. That's what they said. The other reason was the name Syria is in our charity. So one of the suggestions was to call the charity From the Unmentionable Country with Love.
Yeah, you see, again, you're in a mindset there of, people who see the word Syria and immediately, they just think of the word bomb, refugee, Bedouin tent, man with long beard, somebody with a gun, terrorist, and all these words are sort of flowing through their brain. And it's because of propaganda.
Unfortunately, and they forgot, for example, about the people who had once ordinary lives just like them, and once they had to go through these extraordinary circumstances, and they became lost and betrayed by the whole world, just like all the other previous plights and nations.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite interesting. You're betrayed by the world. That is a really, really powerful statement. And one thing that does come across to me very strong is that you see the children as not more important than the old people, but it's certainly coming across that you see that if there is going to be a positive future, it has to come from the children.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the next generation that Syria is going to have, and unfortunately, most of them are losing their childhood, are out of schools, no education, losing opportunities. They Some of them have to work, and some of them, so it just they are living the most difficult circumstances because they're being structured and built. Their personality is being built in a war zone or in a refugee camp or outside the school, and that's very harmful and worry for the future generation of Syrian people.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that is the agenda.
Yeah.
You know, to keep us all stupid.
Yeah, to just keep controlling people and to keep them scared about paying taxes, keep them scared about extremism and terrorism, and brainwash them with religion. Now, if people in the West, for example, well, yeah, our governments are fighting us, our government fighting us. Well, they're not. If they were, they would have to terminate them. They would have eliminated them by now. But they're not, actually. They're using it as a tool to scare you, but they not necessarily want to destroy them because it serves their agenda. But I don't think, like, can you believe 200,000 idiots are located in a piece of land and cannot be defeated by Russia, America, Britain, Turkey, Syria, and other countries? Like, the most powerful countries in the world and the NATO cannot defeat these 200,000 idiots located on the ground. Why don't you cut the borders and close all the borders around the area and stop entering and selling ongoing and outgoing things, and also use some intelligent technology, because we are the public, the general public, and we can spot via Google Maps anyone, anywhere, anytime if we wanted to use it. Can you imagine the secret intelligence, how much advanced equipments they have, and they still are not capable on destroying ISIS? It's just so strange.
I think it's the same with any situation that serves an agenda, and that's that perpetual war makes money.
Yeah.
You know, perpetual illness makes money. It's almost any agenda that you want to look at. There's no money in curing anything, but there's lots of money in keeping something needing help.
Yeah, and scaring people, and being used to make people not like strangers or terrified. There's a Syrian guy, who was killed in Ireland just 2 weeks ago. Now, if that was, let's suppose, a British soldier being killed in Afghanistan or Pakistan or any place in the world, everyone would have heard about it, or a Swedish person. But because this guy is Syrian and he was innocent, he wasn't doing anything. It was just somebody stabbed him to death. Now, that is not spoken about because we unfortunately evaluate people according to the piece of paper which says where they're from, and that means they're either less valuable or more valuable.
Yes, and I think that again comes from certainly from the UK media, but it's all done in such a way that it's never actually said outright, but it's always underlying and things that it's a general feeling that comes across when you watch a news item. You know, that these people are worse off than us, almost because they deserve to be.
Yeah, or they are killing each other. Let them do whatever the hell they want to do, and it's not our thing. Well, it's actually, yes, it is, because the global powers in the world are all connected and all after their own agenda, whether it's money, whether it's power. It used to be religion, but now it's not anymore for the government. Now it's used as a tool to brainwash the individuals and cause hatred between them. But now it's mostly oil, money, power, and ego, and selfishness, greed, and all the other factors.
Yeah, I mean, government itself is a religion. You know, it takes somebody to believe in it, and it's even got its own commandments.
Exactly, and then we end up seeing ourselves following and cheering people that we have never met, and we don't necessarily agree on their policies, and we don't really know if they are genuine or if they're gonna serve the way they promised, and they keep selling us lies, and we ended up supporting them without knowing why we're doing that. Like, why? Who invented governments? Like, seriously.
Baraa, one thing that has been said on this program a few times, sometimes by me and sometimes by a guest, one of which, again, I can remember Rob Halford saying this, and that's that we have one common enemy. Every common man has got one common enemy, and that is the elite.
Yeah, indeed.
The Rothschilds, the bankers, and I don't mean the politicians. I mean the puppet masters who operate the politicians.
Yeah, and I think if only we could reach out and understand the mentality of this elite, we know how to deal with them. But unfortunately, I cannot believe, or I cannot imagine what is the personality or the mentality or the objectives of such a personality that is seeing what's happening and not taking actions. Wherever their level was, whether they're puppets or whether they're not, whether they were controlled or not, they should try to change. Everyone should believe in a change. Everyone should believe that we can do something. So let's assume that I was a president put by several elite members who want me to say things. I would still revolt. I would still try to make sure that I'm trying to, even if it cost me my life, I would try to make the world a better place. I wouldn't want to cause more hatred. I wouldn't want to attack and spread ignorance and xenophobia and hatred between people for any reason, whether it's religion, whether it's money, whether it's my own personal interest. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what Kennedy did, and that's exactly what happened to Kennedy.
You mentioned the example, actually. Yeah, and he ended up being killed.
Yep, that's exactly, because there are good people in this world who move into politics because of their own beliefs, and they actually want the world to be a better place. And then when they actually find themselves in a job which they rely on to pay their own bills, and they're all within the same system that we're in, all of a sudden their agenda changes.
Yeah, but I don't believe they should be convinced in that situation. I believe that they should do all what, if that was the case, they all should be doing what Kennedy did. Yeah,
absolutely. But the world is run by 13 families of psychopaths, and they really are. They have no. It's just collateral damage. 2, 3, 4, 500,000 people in the Middle East. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
I
think it could be controlled by those. Yeah.
Sorry, there's a couple of comments in the chat room for us, Baraa. Why would they want ISIS defeated when they invented them? Quite true. Mm-hmm. Another one, all life is cheap to these arseholes. Yep, you're absolutely right, it is. And a question, has Baraa heard of Ronald Bernard or Ronald Bernard?
No, I'm afraid. Who's that guy?
No, I don't know, I'm merely reading a question out, Baraa. Baraa, we've got about 5, maybe 10 minutes to go. What I do want to cover is we've got the book, and people know they can contact you from SyriaWithLove.com, and they can look at where you're going to be speaking. Whether it's in the UK, you're going over to Berlin and carrying on, trying to explain to the world what's really going on in Syria. Now, when you've spoken at these 50 venues so far, what's the first thing that you come out and say? Because if I went to a meeting to hear somebody talk about Syria, I'm not really sure what my preconception would be. But what is the first thing that you say to those people that are stood watching you on that stage?
Actually, I start with a warming message, a bit of joke that I told you about.
I introduced myself. Well, the reason I'm introducing myself is because I came to the UK 2010, 2006, and this is how people thought, and this is how I had to introduce myself. So I tell them that I don't live in a tent in a desert to kind of make them, just make the environment a bit more friendly. And then I start telling them about Syria before the crisis, Syria during the crisis, and the situation now. And then I tell them about From Syria with Love and my personal experience, and then I take Q&A.
Right. Okay. So a lot of the things that you go through are the things that we discussed tonight.
Yeah, mostly with the PowerPoint slides that with the short footage that illustrates my points that I want to address.
Right. When we look at your own personal story and where that's taken you, it doesn't strike me that it was somewhere that you expected to end up.
Well, I actually, I don't think I never expected myself to be here, to be honest, before the crisis. But when the crisis started, I knew that I had to be here. I knew that there is no way I can pretend that I'm not caring enough. I should do actions, but I mean, for as many other people, it might be the end for me because I'll go bankrupt soon, and I'll have to get a 9-to-5 eventually.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. It's just not worth your life.
with no bank account for the charity, we cannot apply for grants to even sustain my living costs. With my family asking me to get married because I'm too old now to get married in Syria. I should have had two children by now. And with no source of income, spending my savings and all these other factors, I think it will be the end soon to get into the 9-to-5 cycle and become a robot, a vending machine that you put £5 into it and gives you a Coke.
You've certainly got the world sussed out. I'll give you that, Baraa, without a doubt. So, From Syria with Love, the bank account thing is a bit of a stumbling block for you. Have you got any way forward with that? Is that? I mean, are you using PayPal? What's happening with that monies at the moment?
So we are sending money through Western Union, and we've got receipts and invoices and everything. And we've got Caroline Lucas we emailed her to help us with approaching banks. So we are now in connection with the bank Santander. I've got different people offered help. I'm trying to approach them all in order to see how we can sort it out. But to be honest, it's very difficult. It's more difficult than I expected. 5 banks, and they ask loads of questions, and they end up saying no. So it just seems pointless to keep wasting time. We're either going to have to change the name, or we're going to have to stop sending money to Syria and focus on raising awareness, or we're going to, I mean, which might happen. I might just, but I don't know. With the schools that we're running, I need to find another charity to take the lead for these schools. And it's all gonna be hopefully clear after the 9th of July when I'll finish my exhibitions and all the events that I committed to.
Right, so that seems you've certainly got a busy time ahead of you, and I'm sure
somebody mentioned about Western Union that they were robbed £450, and Western Union charged us a lot of fees. Western Union charge us money through money exchange rates. However, we don't do it online. We go to the center and we take receipts and invoices, and it sometimes costs us a bit more than bank transfer, but that's the only option for us now, unfortunately.
Well, we certainly wish you luck with that. Baraa, we've got just a few minutes left. I'd just like to give you an open floor for a couple of minutes, just so that you can fill in any gaps that you want to fill in, mention any other people doing good work out in Syria or here in the UK, anything at all that you feel that we've not covered tonight.
I would like to mention one message to everyone who hears or everyone who's interested. We really need
to a whole new movement of everything. We really need to stop the whole administration costs on the big organizations and charities like the UN and the Save the Children. Save the Children chairwoman takes $5,000 a week to save the children, and then somebody would argue, well, you need the high professional people to run such a big organization. Without say, yes, you need them, but you need them motivated by the cause. You don't need them motivated by the money. We need average salary for all the employees, at least in the charity sector. If not in all the other public, like the doctor and the garbage man should take the same. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm saying at least in the charity, within the charity sector, the motive should be the cause. The higher you are in the sector, it depends on two things: how professional you are and how passionate you are, not how much money you can earn. And we need to try to stop judgment, stop criticizing, try to come together, unite, and make our best that we will have faith in ourselves that we will make the world a better place. I mean, there's no ideal world. Everyone knows that. Even if we tried our best, we're not going to reach an ideal world. But I'm sure that we can move forward to a better place than the one that we're living in currently. Because to me, it's a piece of rubbish, to be honest. It's disgusting. Social injustice, trafficking, rape, hunger, poverty, inequality, and that should all be addressed. We should not only be running after our taxes and worried about our own individualism and live in our own bubbles.
Well, we've had guests who've said similar things to you, but I don't think we've ever had a guest who's put it quite as well as that. And for me, Baraa, you could change this from Syria with love to from Baraa with love, or from Baraa with love to everybody in the world, because you've certainly worked out that. I mean, I often sort of hear stories and I think, can this world really get any worse? And it does.
Exactly.
You know, and it has to be up to the good people to say to everybody above us, or who think they're above us, enough really, really is enough. We just don't want to play your game anymore.
Exactly, and the system is mostly against us. It's making things more difficult for us. So if whatever you do, you just feel like everything is coming on your way. Now, whatever you try to change, there's always obstacles, and alone, you're still a drop in the ocean. That's why I'm trying to raise awareness as well. We need as many people engaged. We don't need words. We don't need cheering. We don't need support. We don't need clapping or anything. We need actions. We need to stop talking and get into the ground and do things.
Definitely. Baraa, we're almost at the end, and I just want to say on behalf of everybody listening, it has been an absolute pleasure. I just want to remind people where they can contact you, and that's from SyriaWithLove.com. Do you have a Facebook you could tell us about, Baraa?
Yeah, we have Facebook. It's the same name of the charity, From Syria with Love. People can see it.
Right, and I think certainly one thing that you've definitely got over tonight is that certainly the children and the people of Syria and all over the Middle East have been betrayed by the world.
Yeah, and actually most civilians in other countries as well, like countries in Africa, in Yemen, the unheard plights, like the people of Yemen, and the people of Somalia, the people of Sudan, the people of some countries in South America, unheard plights that even worse. The Congo, the Myanmar, it's just, it's never-ending plights that we don't necessarily always hear about.
Yeah, and we're not supposed to understand either, because that wouldn't do their regime or their propaganda any good, would it? And it certainly wouldn't bring any order in anybody's life.
Yeah, indeed.
So, Baraa, I just want to say thank you very much. And if I could just ask you to hang on the call just while I finish off the show. And as I said earlier, we have a couple of different technical setup than we have usually. So the music at the end, Baraa, the people will be able to hear you and I talking over the end of it. So we'll let Andy Young do his bit for that. But what I do want to say is, firstly, a big thank you. If you want to get hold of Baraa, from SyriaWithLove.com or on Facebook. And if you do nothing more, just have a look at the website. But certainly one message that has come over is this guy loves everybody. apart from the bastards that are trying to kill everybody.
Yeah.
And it really is as simple as that. So thanks very much for that, Baraa. I'm just going to tell everybody about what's happening here on raconteursnews.com. Tomorrow night we've got Jason and Andy on 8 o'clock. And I'll be back next Monday. Now, next Monday, we've had a lot of requests for some updates on the fracking issues. That, well, as I said earlier, that they're just a couple of miles from my house and getting ever closer. And we've got an update from our fracking special from about 6-7 weeks ago when we did that one. So that's definitely not one. That's one not to be missed. And we were speaking with Rob Halford from Australia the other day, and he's been doing an awful lot of research into a lot of history, and he's willing to come on and chat to us about that. So hopefully we should have that one on the week after, on the 26th. And then on the 3rd of July, we've got the fabulous Pippa King coming back to talk about smart cities. So we've got a busy month ahead. And if you do nothing else, check out the podcasts. And you listen to all those previous shows on raconteursnews.com. Just follow the link to the podcasts. And if you've got something to share, contact us, raconteursnews.com, or just click on the contact button. Thanks to my producer tonight, Andy Young. And thank you very much to Baraa Kouja from Syria with Love. We're going to play out with another track from Mr. Deke Jackson. Thanks and good night.